Right, how much worse can this get? I really dread to think. You really dread to think, don't you? United are 15th in the Premier League table, just lost 1-0 to Tottenham, a distinctly average Tottenham Hotspur team, thanks to a goal from James Maddison. United had their chances. They should have scored. They should have equalised. They perhaps even had enough in terms of chances to win the game, but they lost it because they can't score goals. That is 28 goals in the Premier League in 25 matches, 12 defeats, -7 goal difference, 15th in the league, below Everton, who are picking up a head of steam, have just overtaken United in the league table. United go to Goodison Park at 12:30 next Saturday. There's an injury crisis, which has just come out of nowhere in a free week in training, where you'd think this is the time where these players can really get down to business. Ruben Amorim can work with the players that he's got, and then you see 5, 6 of them all drop out of the matchday squad. Ahmad is out for the season. Kobbie Mainoo is out for a good few weeks. There's only one player over the age of 19 on the bench for that game at Tottenham yesterday. Victor Lindelof was the only player who'd ever played senior football for Manchester United on that bench. And you just think, how much worse can this get? Because, it's you don't really want to look at the table too much and think, oh God, do we actually have to consider that process? I don't think this is going to happen by any means or any stretch, but United have to pick up soon. They really, really do. I'm going to read you out the fixture list now. Everton away. Obviously, I've just said Everton have leapfrogged United already. Ipswich, gave United a tough test in Ruben Amorim's first game at Portman Road. Then you got Arsenal at home, Leicester away, Nottingham Forest away, Man City at home, Newcastle away. How many, the way that United are playing at the moment, how many points are they going to pick up from these matches? I don't want to bring doom to the podcast, because this is always never too high, never too low, and I do try and do that. But it's just difficult to see where the goals and where the wins are coming from at the moment. You're not going to have to do enough in order to just get over the line and salvage the season in terms of doing whatever they can to end the season on a good note. But it's just, I think that Ahmad injury last week was the real killer. It really was. He was the only hope. He's contributed 42% of United's goals this season through goals and assists. And the way that United were shooting yesterday, the way that they were finishing their chances, it doesn't give you much hope or promise that they'll end up taking more of their chances and becoming more clinical in the games to come. Anyway, look, I'll talk about the Tottenham game in this podcast. I'll talk about the injury problems and just my general feeling at the moment. I think I don't want to criticize Ruben Amorim, because I know the difficult situation that he's come into at Manchester United. But I think yesterday that was a moment where he lost a few people. Well, that he gave people a reason to criticize him yesterday. And I'm seeing a lot of people kind of go this way, and I felt it as well. The fact that you have a bench full of youth team players to, just prop up the first team squad because of the injuries and because of the absences you've got. The way the game was going, I just thought, give Chido Obi more than 3 minutes and give some other players maybe an opportunity. When you're seeing the players that are out on the pitch at the moment or in that game yesterday, and you know what you're getting out of them, I'm talking Casemiro mainly, maybe try something different, because you know what you're going to get, and you know that what you're getting out of the players that are on the pitch at the time it's not going to change. It's the definition of madness. Anyway, this is the Promised Land podcast with me, Scott Saunders, talking all things Manchester United. I was going to try and be positive here and try and, say it'll all be all right in the end. But I think the injuries over the last few days, since I last did a podcast, actually, is funny. I did a podcast last week and just thought, United need to start picking up wins now. And you could see hope with Ahmad, because he was just that one spark and that one cold-blooded, kind of assassin in the right moment in the final third. And United don't have him anymore. So you're looking at the players now to really pick up their game and start taking the chances that they create. But look, difficult, innit? Get in touch with me in the comments, and get in touch with me on social media as well, at @_Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm on Blue Sky as well. The link is in the description. Please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and any other audio platforms, and subscribe on YouTube as well. The Promise and the Manchester United podcast. Like the video, as I say, subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling, because it's despair at the moment. It really is. And as much as we all kind of known this season was a write-off for a while, we know that there's a rebuild that needs to take place. There's still a long way. There's still a long way to go this season, and you really need to see a bit more out of these players than we're getting at the moment. Otherwise, over the next few weeks, if we don't, the conversation is going to become ever more worrisome. And I'm not saying that I don't think United can. Maybe they could win their next two games, but the way Everton are going and the way that United have been performing when the home crowd is, their performances at Old Trafford this season don't inspire you with a lot of confidence. Generally, they're better away from home, but the next game against Everton is a difficult one on paper. And then you've got two games there. If you don't take 3 points or 6 points over the next 3, it's trouble. It's real trouble. And I don't want to be that guy, because I still have faith that United will eventually be okay and turn it around. But I think there's a whole other level of depth and despair that we could go to even from this point. And that's really alarming. Anyway, I'll talk about the Tottenham game. So, I had this feeling, given the form that United have shown in their games against Tottenham over the last few seasons, actually, that this was a game that United would lose. Didn't want to say it, but what have United shown, really, to suggest that they can go and beat a Tottenham team, even without a bunch of their first-team players who, as I say, look distinctly average? But Tottenham took their one chance that they had. I think United ended up having more of the chances in the game, but you just don't have any belief or confidence in the players that are, getting into those positions to actually convert chances, because they look low on confidence at the moment. Rasmus Højlund looks low on confidence. I don't think Garnacho is having a particularly good time in front of goal, as much as he likes to get his head up and, keep going. Eventually, at some point, these chances are going to have to start going in. Otherwise, we're going to be plunged into all sorts of difficult conversations over the next month or so. And it's only going to get more difficult. The pressure is only going to increase. And I'd like to think that if the pressure ever really got on, that United would start to kind of react in the right way, because they are, top level professionals. They should be. United are just cruising in a bad sense at the moment towards the end of the season, and it's difficult for everybody to stomach it. Every game watching them is a chore at the moment. The quality of that game yesterday was absolutely terrible, and it's just basic things. And I look at Ruben Amorim and how despairing he is. He's got his head kind of sunken down into his lap when he sat on the bench, and there's images of him going around like essentially powerless to do anything. And I think the club have written the season off, obviously, but we just need to see more. I think, a couple of wins out of the next few games, and I think we can all just kind of sit and rest easy. Well, I say rest easy. This is way beyond where United ever should be. But I think I'm starting to lose a bit of hope here. And you just need to see something different. Need to see something else, and you just think that Everton game coming up is going to be a difficult one. Anyway, I'll talk about the game, because I didn't expect Ruben Amorim to, given the extent of the injuries. Obviously, Ahmad being out for the rest of the season is such a damaging blow. Kobbie Mainoo losing him for as much as 6 weeks, I think it's looking like. Big problem. Ugarte and Collier being out. I don't know how long they'll be out for. Maybe they'll be back for next week, hopefully. You've lost Martinez as well, and there's, the depth has gone. And then Ruben Amorim has to name a bench of just purely academy players plus Victor Lindelof for that game. I understood the first team that he named. I understood the 11 that he named, but looking at Casemiro on that pitch, you just know that was the first time he's played in the Premier League in 2025. Things have got desperate. They really have. And I understand why you went with him in the first place, but I think the thing for me and the thing for a few people yesterday that I've seen, and I felt this while I was watching the game, was Ruben, you know exactly what you're going to get out of these players. You've seen when we'd hit 70 minutes or whatever it was, and United had missed a few chances. You'd seen that we're not really getting any more out of these players for today anyway. Why not try something else? Because you were losing the game at that point. Just throw an injection of youth and exuberance in there and maybe a bit of fearlessness. Because generally, when youth players are coming up and getting a chance in the first team, it can maybe add something. You think of Marcus Rashford's story and how he was drafted into the Michelin squad in the Europa League when he made his debut. He came in and scored 2 goals on his debut, and then came in and scored 2 goals against Arsenal on his Premier League debut in the same week. And I looked at it and I thought, I just need to see something different here because I know exactly what I'm getting out of the players that are on the pitch. And I'm only talking about maybe making 1 or 2 changes a little bit earlier. But I think he lost a bit of belief yesterday. I'm not saying like by any means at all. I'm not saying by any means at all that I don't still believe in what Ruben Amorim is doing. I'm very much behind him. I would like to see him fully backed, and I would like to see how this project is going to turn out when he gets players who are physically capable of dealing with the demands of what his system entails. But I don't know whether it was looking at Casemiro, the way that he kind of ambled around the pitch and got bypassed by more athletic players on the opposition midfield. It was one of the games early last season when Eric Ten Hag was in charge as well. I think he was the same fixture, actually, the second or third fixture in the list for last season where United went to Tottenham and lost 2-0. That was probably the first game really where I saw Casemiro get absolutely overrun in midfield. And that was 18 months ago in the same game. And it's still happening. And I know that Casemiro is the highest earner at the club by a country mile, and that is a contract that United gave out that they never should have. And we've had that conversation previously. We've talked about it many, many times. But what I fail to understand the reason why he wasn't withdrawn, because Casemiro's lack of mobility, as has been pointed out in the media and other places. I think Gary Neville spotted this as well. I think this is where I got it from, actually. Gary Neville saying that, Bruno Fernandes was the one who had to kind of vacate his midfield position and go and cover the right side because Joshua Zirkzee was in a position further forward and didn't want him to kind of drop back and cover the fullback. So Bruno had to go and do the job, and then that ended up knackering out Bruno Fernandes and leaving Casemiro exposed as well. I think you know Casemiro's limitations. I'm talking about Casemiro specifically here, and it's just maybe the one best example I could give of maybe he was worried a little bit about the message that it would send if Casemiro was withdrawn for another young player. After Toby Collier came on for Casemiro earlier in the season against Liverpool, after Casemiro had a nightmare first half at Old Trafford in the 3-0 loss. To do that again, probably when you need Casemiro over the next few weeks, maybe it's the wrong message to send. But I just look at it and I think if Ruben Amorim is talking about needing different profiles for his team and he says this in pretty much every press conference now, we need different profiles. He said it before the game as well in one of his pre-match interviews. If you know that you need different profiles, well, try them out. Because you know what you're getting out of Casemiro at the moment. You know what you're getting out of Rasmus Højlund at the moment. And I've not wanted to criticize Højlund too much because I know that I'm not going to go out and criticize like every player because I know the difficulty of the situation that they're all in. And I understand that as much as Højlund can't really hold the ball up all that well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, really. Højlund's not really contributing. He's losing his confidence, but he's also not getting the service that he requires in order to convert chances. So it's a difficult one to kind of judge. It's everybody's fault, really. But I think Ruben Amorim he dropped the ball a little bit yesterday. He had a group of youngsters on the bench who've been playing really well in the youth teams, and didn't use any of them until the 91st minute. When Chido Obi, there's no time for him to make any impact or any impression on the game, and he didn't even touch the ball. So I think, especially if this injury crisis is going to continue, I think he's got to just trust or give some of these players a go. Give some of them a go, because that game was lost yesterday as soon as United went 1-0 down. And after they kept missing their chances, I don't know how you guys felt. Maybe you thought that a goal would come, but I never really had any confidence or belief that it would, even though United were creating the chances, because they just don't concede. They don't convert enough chances. They're not good enough in the final third. So maybe there was an opportunity to inject some fresh impetus into the team, a little bit of fearlessness of youth, somebody who has a bit of confidence at younger levels, in Chido Obi, for example. Just give him 20 minutes. I don't think it's too much to ask, because you can't really affect a game in 3 minutes. And he didn't. He didn't have an opportunity to do so. I'm talking about Chido Obi, maybe Morehouse as well. He's been, forging a good reputation for himself in terms of a ball carrier, which United need in the youth teams. Maybe there was a chance for him to kind of come on and maybe make an impression. But I look at maybe making a change to Chido Obi and making a change from Casemiro to someone like Sekou Kone in the midfield to just add a little bit more impetus and a little bit more energy. Like, we do all know that Casemiro can't run, can't really cover ground. And to expect anything different is silly, really. So, look, I understand that maybe Amorim wants to rely on the likes of Casemiro for the next few weeks, and he might have to. But he's going to have to change something if he's going to want to do that, because something that works as well, because yesterday didn't work. He's going to need to change something in order to protect Casemiro and make sure that he doesn't have to cover that much ground. But you can see that if he's trying to implement the system that he's got, he may as well start using players who are maybe more fit to the profile that he wants, rather than going with more experienced players that he may be afraid of upsetting because he can't shift them. I don't know. Like, that was my real take on it, my real disappointment. And look, United have another week off, and maybe some players will come back. I think Collier is a potentially good fit if he's fit. Mamadou Ugarte is obviously a miss as well, but even when United have had him in midfield, United haven't been great over the last few weeks. There's a lot of pain ahead. There's a lot of work to do. And where's the promise coming from? Never too high, never too low, eh? Does just seem a bit like we're paying for something, doesn't it? The way that things are going for United at the moment, the form that United are in, the players not being able to kind of implement the manager's plans. The performances are awful. The missed chances are terrible. There's a sense of real apathy that we all know. The talk about the owners and the financial troubles. And then you see Anthony going and playing for Real Betis and having a flying start to his career and scoring a scissor kick volley in Betis' game last night, just after United had lost to Tottenham. It's just incredible to see. What is wrong inside that football club? Jadon Sancho and that freedom comment, I had a chat about it yesterday, is something that ticked off a lot of people, because Sancho is still technically paid by Manchester United, and I know he won't be coming back because Chelsea won't finish below 14th, but he was right. There's a real history of players now. Even Marcus Rashford made a big impression for Villa at the weekend, and we all knew it would happen. We all did. But escaping this mess that is Manchester United seems to be really beneficial for a lot of players, and more players than you care to think. And the fact that Anthony is going to score in flying volleys is just incredible. In the end, like Rashford and Anthony playing well on their loans will inevitably force up the price and strengthen United's hand in terms of selling them in the summer. But you just have to think what's going wrong inside that football club. The amount of pressure that is on and the lack of confidence that these players must have in that environment, even though the club don't really let out that kind of information, it must be based on the amount of players that end up leaving and perform better just because they're in a new environment. It's absolutely crazy. But anyway, look, United have a bunch of fixtures which are upcoming, which on paper they should be winning, but football isn't played on paper. You're talking about Everton away, Ipswich at home on the Wednesday the 26th, and then Arsenal after an FA Cup round, I believe it is. So there's 2 games left in February in the league. And look, United need at least 4 points from these games. They really, really do, because the table is looking terrible at the moment. But you can't really say with any confidence that United will go and actually take the points, because they're facing up against teams that are in and around them. And it's absolutely crazy to think that Everton are ahead of United, given all the problems that Everton have, all the cultural issues that Everton have, all the financial problems that Everton have. David Moyes has come in and made a massive impression. And they're doing really well. United need to stop this rot as soon as possible. They really, really do. And I don't really know where that change is going to come from as it stands, but let's hope something does change. Let me know what you guys think about where are you standing in terms of your feeling, your apathy levels, your confidence levels for what's to come. How much? I know there's a lot of criticism going around from Ruben Amorim, and I will say again, I know I've done a section today on the mistakes I thought Amorim made yesterday. I will double down though and say that doesn't mean that I want this to end or that I'm starting to be unconvinced by Amorim. It's just that in that isolated day, I think he made an error or a couple of errors in not bringing on the youth players just for a fresh impetus. But he has a decision to make, really, for me, and I'd like to see something different from him in the weeks to come. But I understand that there's a lot of people who look at Amorim and aren't convinced at the moment. The issues higher up in the club are really difficult. He's obviously dealing with a difficult hand. He hasn't been supported in the market, but that's down to the club itself. And look, I'm talking about players here. Casemiro's on 350k a week. Mason Mount, £250,000 a week. That there is, 600k on 2 players that can barely get a game. I know Casemiro played yesterday, but they're just not considered first-team players due to either unsuitability to the system or because of injuries. You've got Christian Eriksen, who, I think he was ill yesterday or wasn't ready to play. He'll be leaving on a free this summer, 150. Luke Shaw, 150, barely see him. Victor Lindelof, barely see him, but he was on the bench yesterday on £120,000 a week. All of these players are just, it's dead money. It's dead money. And when you look at it and how much money United could be saving based on if they get those players out, I haven't even included the loan players yet. Marcus Rashford, Anthony, Jadon Sancho, Tyrell Malacia. There's other players in the first team squad as well that maybe will end up leaving the club. United are burning through a hell of a lot of money on players they're not using or that aren't suited. And it's only in the summer that United are going to be able to fix that. So they really have to get through this period now and get through to the end of the season, just avoiding as much misery as possible. But it's really difficult to know how United are going to edge out of that. And I think the only real hope that I had for the rest of the season was I was looking at the Europa League and thinking that competition is winnable. Tournament football's a little bit different, and United are unbeaten in that competition at the moment. They seem to have just been doing enough, especially under Amorim. And maybe I do still have confidence that they can go far in that competition. But the fact that Amar's gone down and he's out for the rest of the season, probably their biggest game changer this season, the fact that he's gone down and that he's injured and that he will not be back this season is really concerning. And my confidence that United will go far in that competition to the point where I thought they could actually win it has dwindled a little bit since the news of Ahmad's injury. So we need to see other players step up. We need to see Joshua Zirkzee, who I thought was actually okay yesterday, of all the players that was on the pitch, I thought he was probably the best one. But we need to see more end product. We need to see more of these players putting the ball in the net. I'm looking at Garnacho, I'm looking at Højlund, I'm looking at Bruno Fernandes. And we just need to see more out of this team. They've got another week or so to prepare for this Everton game now coming up. And hopefully more patterns can be embedded into the team. Hopefully the injuries can clear up a little bit in terms of the short-term ones. Hopefully there's no more injuries as well. But there's other things before I go, other things that I saw in the game yesterday that are just that just need to change. The amount of times that United's players lose possession, there was spells in the match where United really held the ball well for like very, very small pockets of the game and they maintained attacks. But most of the time, and a lot of players are guilty of this, not just Højlund, but there was Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho, happened to Zirkzee a couple of times. They were just receiving the ball and passing behind the player or not passing accurately, and they would end up losing it again. It really stunts your ability to progress in the game and progress up the pitch. And Garnacho as well, he was guilty of missing a few chances, but there were a couple of times in that game where we saw Patrick Dorgu finally play in that left wing-back position. I thought Dorgu was pretty good, actually, in relativity to the rest of the team. Seeing him in that left wing-back role and seeing what the left wing-back should be bringing to this team, I thought he brought it a little bit yesterday. But Garnacho wasn't using the overlap. He'd use it as a decoy quite often, quite frequently. There was a moment in the second half where Garnacho had the ball cut inside. Dorgu it was a perfect moment for an overlap. I think he was in the box. Zirkzee was there ready to tap it in, and Garnacho goes himself, and the chance amounts to nothing. Where he could have just put that pass in behind the defender into Dorgu's path. It was a simple square into Zirkzee, who, knowing United's luck, it might not have gone in, but chances are, if that move had played out, there was an easy chance for Zirkzee to convert. So these players need to make better decisions. We obviously need more flexibility in terms of the senior team. But yeah, it's a difficult afternoon on Sunday and a difficult last few days for United fans to stomach, and for belief or hope that the rest of the season isn't going to be as miserable as it's looking at the moment, because it is really, really miserable. And look, miracles happen, but you just don't know where it's going to come from at the moment. But let me know your thoughts, guys. I'd love to know how you're feeling, because I try not to cut too much of a downbeat figure on the podcast. I always try to sit somewhere in the middle, but I just need to see something more out of these players. I really do. And the fact that they were creating chances is encouraging, but it ultimately means nothing if you're not going to take them. And you're going to end up taking 0 points from matches. It's happening too frequently for United at the moment. So let me know how you're feeling. Let me know what you thought of the game yesterday. And get in touch with me on social media at @double_Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Get in touch in the comment section on this video as well. Leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and support the show if you can, and subscribe on audio platforms as well, Apple, Spotify, and any other audio platform you may use. The Promised Land should be there. I'll be back later this week to talk more about United. There's no game until Saturday, like I say, but training has got to be better this week. We cannot afford any more injuries. And if Ruben Amorim is going to have to carry more injuries, he needs to be a little bit more courageous with trusting the youth, because that is a tradition of Manchester United, and you never really know what you can get out of it. We've definitely seen some players prosper in those circumstances before. So yeah, difficult one. United lose again, but I'll be back later this week to talk more about what's happening off the pitch and on it. This has been the Promised Land podcast with me, Scott Saunders. See you next time.